All right, guys. Well, happy Friday. We are here talking again this week. Grit, mental toughness. Obviously, these things go hand in hand. And a couple of, some of mine are research-driven but actionable steps that get you towards that goal, right? Grit is it's not an end state of being. It's a kind of a constant process. There are days where, I slept 4 hours on Wednesday night. I had very little grit yesterday. My grit meter was very low. So I had to take a pause last night, kind of shut off from the world, and get a good night's sleep, and I feel 100 times better today because of that. So don't forget, it needs to be pampered a little bit from time to time. Your grit needs to be pampered, or at least caretaken, so to speak. So
definitely.
Starting off today, this has been kind of a theme that's kind of interwoven a lot of things we talked about this week, but be results driven, but ultimately be action focused. So you're always thinking about your end game result. Where am I going? Where's this getting me? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you really got to think about, what am I doing today? What steps am I taking today? Yesterday we talked about how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. The end game goal is there. I want to get through the elephant, so to speak. I want to earn my black belt. I want to put $1 million into savings. I want to, whatever your big goals are, but it's not going to happen today, and that's okay. So that grit, that mental toughness comes from taking those little forward steps every single day. So your real actual focus, when we do our breathing, we focus on the act of breathing. We focus on the here and the now and the breathing. And being action focused means exactly that. Focus on today. What are today's steps forward?
My first one was replacing the word failing with learning. This was one of those lessons that I didn't actually learn until I started Jiu-Jitsu actually. I'm one of those people that needs to do it right the first time, or don't flatter yourself.
I gotta dislocate my shoulder, patting myself on the back.
The
credit goes to Jiu-Jitsu, not me.
Correct. What you kind of learn in Jiu-Jitsu or a martial art is you are going to fail over and over and over and over again. I was a ice hockey player beforehand, and maybe it was just some of the coaches that I had, but you fail a lot in sports, and but they never really put the emphasis on the learning. It was more like you're in trouble for passing the puck in front of the net when you're not supposed to, instead of that's definitely a fail in hockey if you know you're not supposed to do that. But yeah, you're not supposed to pass the puck in front of your own net. That's usually bad. But instead of taking that opportunity to kind of learn from it and kind of grow, I always just thought that was now I'm in trouble. So I don't know if it was just the coaching, I don't know if it was just my personality when I was 8 or 10, 12, 15. But once I kind of started learning a martial art, it was more of failing didn't necessarily become fun, but it was more of I can learn from my mistakes and keep learning by failing, and it's not the end of the world if you do fail. It's likely. And then when I started teaching the kids and kind of doing these lessons with them about how they might fail their dawn test, or they might fail their pre-test, or things like that, it was they're learning how to cope with that feeling that I never had to cope with when I was 8. And I think that's such an important lesson these days, because to learn this lesson when you're 20 is a lot harder to learn than when you're 8.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to teach young students.
Moms and dads, anything you want the kids to be good at when they're older, expose them as young as you can. So failing, they should be exposed to failing a lot. Falling down, they should be exposed to fall. Stop wrapping them in bubble tape. You're making bad adults, and you're making us all have to deal with bad adults. Stop doing that, okay?
Absolutely.
Punishments are important. Limitations are important.
Yes.
Speaking of which, so my next one it's a long one. I'm gonna make it really short. Practice delaying gratification. We said it again. Practice delaying gratification. If you've never taken, a psychology course, one of the most common bits of research that comes up is they take a bunch of kids and they put a bunch of kids into a room, and they put them in the room with either marshmallow or a bowl of candy, whatever. And what they tell the kids is you can have this candy now, but if you wait we're going to bring you a lot more candy or marshmallows or whatever. But they don't tell the kids how long it's going to be. They don't leave a timer up on the wall. And they walk out and they shut off the lights. They close the door and they turn on the camera and they watch. And what they found is, this is a longitudinal study, the kids who were willing to wait for their satisfaction, wait for their gratification, wait for their treat, as you will, ended up later in life being far more successful. Your ability to delay gratification, your mental toughness, your grit, you're willing to see failures as learning points, all of these matter a lot more than your IQ in terms of how successful you ultimately are. And not even a little bit, a lot more, okay? A lot more. So in your life, practice delayed gratification. There are little things in my life where like, I don't buy snacks and cookies and whatever because then they're in my house, so I know that they're not an option. The delay gratification is when I take nights and I go out to grab snacks with friends or whatever else. Those are the moments in time when I let myself enjoy because I've worked up to enjoying that. I've been disciplined all week. Now this night I know I get to have whatever, right? Those very simple little things. So anytime you can, anytime you have an opportunity, practice delaying that gratification. It's huge, huge, huge in terms of its benefits and effects. And while this research was on kids, this is for all humans. There's no age limit to this one.
Interesting. So my second one was stop seeking approval. You don't need an attaboy every time you do something, and stop seeking it out. I think of this and I think of more of like that anticipation. So like kind of do the necessary steps for like what's next. A lot of the things that we talk about with our staff specifically is anticipate. Like, and this is one of the lessons that I've had to learn too, because I was always one of those people that is like, you got to tell me what to do, or I'm just like, I'm not even going to think to do it. So I've been trying to get better with the whole anticipation thing, doing things without being like told to, and trying to train and teach the team here, the staff here, to kind of do the same, figure some problems out for themselves. My new motto, and this came from, specifically my brother does this all the time. He tends to more seek forgiveness than ask approval. His whole thing is, I'm gonna just do it, and if I have to, apologize or, seek forgiveness for what I did, then fine. But if I just do it and, that kind of method is actually one of the reasons he gets promoted a lot, because he doesn't wait on other people to be like, oh, good job, and seeking that like, oh, did I do a good job on this report, or like stop seeking approval is kind of that.
If I can dovetail on that one?
Absolutely.
I can't tell you how many times, guys, I've watched the ninjas class, the kids class, a little bit less with the juniors, although it does happen to the very, very, very insecure kids. I see this as a security thing, a self-confidence thing. You'll see the little 5-year-olds, they'll do a good job, they'll get a high five from the coach, but they look at mom and dad. And sometimes that's not a bad thing, right? Obviously, the next one on the list will talk about when that's the right moment in time. But a lot of times it interrupts their lessons, it interrupts their moving forward and their progress because they need mommy and daddy's approval. And I know a lot of 20-year-olds who need mommy and daddy's approval on everything they do. Oh, I swept the floor. Good job. Like you need accolades for that. Like that's what needs to be done. Just sometimes whatever needs to be done, you're supposed to. That's right. But yeah, there's a Chris Rock joke here that we're not going to follow through on. But you're supposed to do whatever needs to be done, right? Sometimes it just needs to be done, and you don't need a high five because you got it done. Just it needs to get done.
The last one, and then I did have a couple honorable mentions, but. Celebrate growth with others. I always find it really important, especially like when a child does set a goal. So like let's pretend they're a brand new student and they set a goal to earn their Dawn stripe or their red stripe. We make it a point to really celebrate their small little victories. And it could just be like a high five, like maybe like a picture, some sort of like go above and beyond to try to like celebrate, even if it's like a tiny little bit of growth with others, and celebrate others. Don't be so selfish if something really important happened and to Sensei Paul. We'd want to celebrate, not necessarily, he's not the one, throwing his party himself, but like.
I do like to throw my own party.
It is fun to throw your own parties, but be a part of the community.
Yeah. With that one in particular, belt testing nights are one of those moments in time. My sensei has always said, warriors work hard, play hard. So the work, show up to every class. You're meant to show up to 12 months of classes for one belt. Let's celebrate that belt. We're not going to celebrate every single class. Every class, we're not going to go party after every class. That's the work. But you hit that next parapet, you hit that next goal, whatever it is, along the way to the bigger goal. We'll take a little moment in time and enjoy each other's company and celebrate. And that's cool. That's a right way to apply. You had some honorable mentions?
I did. We're not gonna really explain them. They're kind of self-explanatory, but my 3 honorable mentions were learn from others' mistakes.
That's one of the hardest ones to do.
Yep, absolutely. And your mistakes as well. Make new goals with new achievements. So every time you achieve something, make a new goal. Don't just say, oh, it's over. And then redefine the word genius. There are so many different definitions for a word genius. And I think our society needs to kind of redefine what that word means. And you need to redefine what that word means. Sometimes, my dad does get discouraged a little bit because he's maybe didn't finish college or didn't get his master's, full master's degree. But he's a genius in building houses, plumbing, and these are skills that not a lot of people have anymore. So, we tell him all the time, you have a skill set that is so rare, and you are a genius when it comes to figuring out little things like that. And it's just one of those things, you need to redefine genius and not, you don't have to have a doctorate to be a genius or, a whatever, but there are going to be things that you're really good at that you could definitely define as genius.
I have a little bit more gray in my beard than Allison has in her hair, so.
I don't have any gray. Not even one strand.
I'm gonna go looking later. This week we lost Eddie Van Halen, and probably not what people would call a genius, except for maybe sometimes the word savant gets thrown around. Arguably the best guitarist of all time, the second best, the third, top 5. I don't know what that I'm sure it's a debate that has no real answer. But, somebody who had lots of his problems in his personal history, was apparently very hard to get along with individually. That's why he had multiple lead singers in his band over the years, right? And Van Halen's had 4 lead singers, mostly because Van Halen was a pain in the ass to deal with, from what I understand. But his guitar skills were genius level, right? Beyond genius level. So yeah, absolutely. Whether or not your dad finished college matters a lot less than he can build a house.
Oh my God.
I don't even know where to start. Yeah. I can live in a house. That's what I can do. I can't build a house. So
he can build it, put the plumbing in. He can do the electrical work. He can build a house.
Those 2 words are few things terrify me. Humans don't terrify me very much. They annoy me, but they don't terrify me. But plumbing and electrical terrifies me. I'm afraid to deal with all of that stuff. So that's to me, that's genius.
Yeah.
All right, it's already 7:19.
All right.
So we're way behind, guys. We're gonna do a quick warm up here. Let's get the bodies moving a little bit. Obviously this week, really great topic. We'll try to spare a little bit more time. Maybe we'll be more disciplined next week for our timing.
Maybe we'll talk about discipline.
No, I know what I want to talk about next week.
Oh, okay, never mind. I call these the Sensei Nicks.
He does like these.
Good spin here.
A little spinny.
Oh.
I watched a lot of, in my not being 100% yesterday, I ended up listening to a lot of Aussie Man reviews on Facebook.
Circles.
And he uses the word spinny spins a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Other direction as well?
I wish I could do a good Australian accent. That is not in my skill set.
No. Knees.
I do a good Boston accent. I do a good Italian accent.
The other way.
That's about it.
I didn't even try.
Not one of my hidden skills.
I do sound like I, most of the time, am bilingual because I can't even get the English phrases and sayings.
You just sound bilingual?
So, one of my favorite shows is NCIS, and one of the characters in NCIS, she's an Israeli Mossad officer, and she says...
You know some of those people.
Yeah. So, a lot of her, American, ideas, what are, the sayings?
Idioms.
Yeah, so she gets those wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And they correct her in the show and stuff, and sometimes I'm like, Oh, I didn't know that one.
That's where that comes from?
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. All right, breathe in.
Yeah, let's breathe, guys. So again, it's already 7:20. We'd normally do more physical warm-up if you want. There's certainly live videos with other longer warm-ups. Box breathing, I mentioned this earlier. So our goal right now is to mentally focus on the act of breathing, remove other thoughts by pushing them to the side to focus, put that mental focus on breathing. So it's gonna be a 4-second breath in, a 4-second hold at the top, a 4-second breath out, a 4-second hold at the bottom, which is the very hard part. So breathe everything out. Breathe in through your nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold at the top. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out through your mouth. 2, 3, 4. Hold at the bottom. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in through your nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold at the top. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out through your mouth. 2, 3, 4. Hold at the bottom. 2, 3, 4. On your own, guys, about 30 seconds, 2 more big breath cycles. And just focus on that air, that oxygen coming into your system. And as always, because it's a Friday, got work to do, we invigorate for the day by a big breath in, big breath out, a little power to that, okay? Friday, so we have our kickboxing on demand. I know we have a bunch of students coming in this afternoon for their little Don testing and belt testing, which is awesome. Very excited by that. Tomorrow, Saturday, all the classes are available. Well, some of the classes might be full, so make sure you sign up, guys, ahead of time. Don't just sign up. We do have limits on space for safety. And then, of course, we'll be back live here on Monday morning. I have a topic idea, but we'll talk about it a little bit. So that's it. Oh, dad joke? I don't know if you got a chance to hear it.
So a guy walks into the doctor's office. He's got cauliflower in his ears, broccoli in his eyes. He's got carrots in his hair. And the doctor says, I know what the problem is. You're not eating right.
Should I do a weekend dad joke?
Sure.
Actually, technically it's more of an Irish joke, but.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so when I was growing up, when I was very young, my grandfather had, and I've not been able to find it ever since, so if you ever find it, it's probably only on cassette tape. That's how long ago this was. I found it on record. I don't have a record player, so if anybody can find a digital version of this, I'd be very happy, but it was called A Bit of Irish Fun with Jimmy Kennedy. So I'm going to attempt to do one of his jokes here. It does have adult beverages involved.
Okay.
So Paddy O'Reilly was leaving the bar, or the pub, sorry, leaving the pub, and he's stumbling down the street. And coming the other way were 2 nuns. So as he's walking, the nuns split and walked around him. So Paddy stops and turns and goes, how the hell did she do that? You're welcome. So, in my non-existent Irish brogue. All right, guys, go get the weekend going. Let's go.